the Battle Cat. The game that has been respectively consistent with their update, putting up content left and right, from the first ever cat all the way to adding Sonic the Hedgehog. We as the community should be grateful for what Ponos has given us, unlike some franchises. But it did leave me wondering, with all the content Ponos has given us, have there been any that they removed or that is finished though hasn't been used? Well, with the help of the Battle Cat's fan wiki and the cutting room floor, there's a decent amount of never before seen content. So today, I want to show you some of it. Tell me, when you look at this picture, what do you believe is missing? That's correct, my inquiry code. Actually though, if you ask the same question to a 2015 Battle Cats player, they would say the invite friends to get Moneko, a feature that was added since the beginning of the game. The feature is self-explanatory. Invite 10 friends to download and play the Battle Cats and boom, you unlock the unit that couldn't even be useful for her combos. This feature was added since the release of the game, and was most likely created for the players to spread word of the brand new game, with Bean Cats being added onto the list of rewards to intensify players' engagement with the feature. But since Ponos knew that the average Battle Cats player can grind 144 stages for superior treasures but can't make more than 3 real-life friends, they shifted their way of unlocking unique units from inviting friends to putting a code that is earned by doing unique tasks, with this feature being named serial codes. The way you earn these codes varied a lot, but most of them involve doing something in real life. Again, difficult for the average Battle Cats player. Now the specific way you earn these codes are via opening real-life capsule machines that are themed around the Battle Cats, buying the Battle Cats Japanese mangas, being given a business card by a Ponos employee. The feature also included collabs, which led to other unique ways in getting these codes, such as buying tickets to a Yakuza Apocalypse movie that comes with a code in the back of the ticket, and buying a CD from a Japanese rock band single to get the crew in your gang. Yeah, you know what's weirder than having a grown-ass man in your loadout? 5 grown-ass man in your loadout, and much more. For what it seems, it was an amazing benefit for everyone. Ponos pushed the Battle Cats further into the mainstream, collabs got a new audience to promote their thing, and we get the sloppiest of sloppy units, solely to upgrade them for a bigger user rank. Though after the Battle Cats gained more and more traction, I believe that Ponos realized that the game could still grow steadily without the need of promotion, thus removing the feature on September 29, 2015, in version 4.3. The cats that were earned by inviting friends were now earned by beating certain stages of VLC Chapter 1. Collabs that came back had the serial code units earned by completing the collab stages, but the other collabs and a majority of the serial code units never came back a second time to the mobile port of the game. But I say mobile port because a decent amount of serial code units can actually be found on the Nintendo Switch port, so we can finally enjoy and experience these units that have long been missing from the game. I'm buying that! So maybe I'll make a review on this game similar to the video style if you guys want. You know, the whole point of unused content is that it's not supposed to be used in the said content. Duh. But what if I can tell you that you can use unused content in the game itself? Yeah, if you go filter your cats while upgrading or equipping them, you can actually use 1 unused effect and 2 unused ability icons: warp, resistant warp, and improved knockback. I said you could use the icons, not the abilities themselves. Yes, Ponos added the icons onto the game, but didn't implement the actual abilities onto the game. So I like to go through them. I'll start with the effect, Warp. An added effect in version 6.5, which makes the attacks of the units with the effect cause the enemies to be warped. As of version 14.6, there has been 0 units that have this effect. Listen, we already have a bunch of enemies with this effect. Why not give it to the cats, man? Like for example, give Space Cat talent so that it can warp metals and even aliens. Give a future Conjure Spirit the effect to warp the frontline enemies all the way to the back. Of course, it's easy to make a unit broken if the warp isn't added on right, but there's scenarios where I can see it being perfectly balanced yet useful. Why not have a cheap Kamikaze unit like Glass Cat with the same stats and all, except instead of knocking back and slowing down tradeless, it warps back traded. Add it on to good like Ibisu's abilities with the same chance and all, so that he occasionally warps an unlucky enemy all the way to the back. I don't know, those are just a couple ideas that interested me. Alright, next is 2 unused abilities, Resistant Warp and Improved Knockback. Resistant Warp is pretty self-explanatory. A unit with this ability just has a lower chance of getting teleported by an enemy. I mean, Resistant overall is just not as good since they're always inconsistent compared to their immune versions. And I mean, besides, many of the units that are good against aliens already have immune to warp, and the couple that aren't are probably better off without one. Though the next ability interested me, Improved Knockback. This ability increases the chances of the unit getting knockback, possibly allowing them to reposition themselves and get in the same distance or perform another hit. I never thought Ponos would do this, since it's such a specific thing that can only work with particular units, but I mean, it can be really useful. The first 2 things that come into mind is the usefulness this ability can have on Rusher class units and Sniper/Backlander class units. Rushers mostly land an attack and just wait out to land another one, and if they have more than 1 knockback count, they can get hit enough to get knocked back and then land another hit, repeating so until they go out. But with this ability, rushers no longer have to wait or get a hit many times, as they can now have a chance to naturally get a hit and push back to land another hit. And other rushers like Yukimura and Bahamut no longer need to take as much damage to land another hit. They can get hit by a small peon, activate their knockback, and throw their huge damage once again. If Ponos decides to do this, it can be a huge improvement for rushers, as it could significantly improve their main goal, landing hits. The second thing that comes into mind is Backlanders/Snipers. If they're given this ability, they could get pushed back once once the enemies begin to get too close, in order to reposition themselves so that they can land hits at a safe distance. I mean, improved knockback on backliners could be a double-edged sword though, as backliners with a long attack animation may be stopped from landing their hits if the enemies keep landing their hits on the units with the ability. But I feel like that just means there's a bigger problem than just a backliner getting pushed back. Overall, it surprised me that this feature was even thought of by Ponos, since it's such a unique thing that you would only really understand its potential if you played through the game long enough. Of course, it's not a I'm a fucking genius for understanding its worst type of level, but you know what I'm talking about. Out of these three features, I would really like improved knockback to be added. Alright, I want to talk about my favorite niche things in video games, sprite sheets. The creative way artists fit in their work in such small pictures in order to maximize the look of their character without taking too much storage. And it seems that the artists at Ponos aren't any different, as they place every part of the unit's body in smart places in order to create their lively animation. Oh, you think you're so fucking funny. Yeah, some of the units we use have sprite sheets that contain unique parts that are never used or seen in the game. So I'd like to go through the few that don't use the whole sprite sheet, starting with whatever this is. Cats in a Box second form, Cat Gang, has some like sprites with no one having a clue on why it's been added. Though some believe that they're supposed to replicate a panel that showcases the Cats in a Box growing legs from a 4-coma manga of the Battle Cats that was released in 2013. And comparing the two, yeah, it's a very good chance. But I think these legs are just meant to be an Easter egg rather than actually being used, because there's really no room to add these. They can't be used for walking, as that's what the wheels are for, and they can't be used to attack, as the mace already does that. I don't think we'll ever know what they could have been used for, but out of all of these sprite sheets, this is the most weird one. Shifting from the weird one towards the most interesting one, we got the Drum Corps sprite sheet. You know Drum Corps, one of the best crowd controllers for metal while he marches with his stick. Yeah, that Drum Corps. Well, in his sprite sheet for his first form, he was actually supposed to come along with two other cats, one with a drum and the other with a tuba. This honestly kind of saddened me, since I would have loved it if they not only used 3 cats for his first form, but as well as the other 2. Like for Banner Cat, it could have been 2 other cats holding signs for joining the Cat Academy, and for the true form, 2 of them are beating the 3rd one as if they were Mochi. I would have loved this idea, but it's understandable why Ponos didn't implement this, as Drum Corps is just a rare. Stop! This next one is a completely unused sprite sheet, which is an Aku Titan that was originally planned to be released alongside with a new trait at the time, Aku. You remember those stages? The ones that contain the 3 basic cats that got Aku-fied and you beat them once and never see them again? Yeah, those stages. Well, knowing that this sprite sheet existed and that there are 5 other Aku-traded enemies that were added onto the same version but have no sprite sheet, it is safe to assume that Ponos was planning to release the whole roster of normal Aku cats, such as Lex and Cow. Though this idea was later scrapped in early development, since the only sprite sheets of these Aku cats is the Aku Titan cat itself. And to be honest, I didn't care enough for the one-off Aku cats to begin with, so it was nice that they didn't stretch this idea further. But you know what I do care about? Catbase mini true form sprite sheet. Yeah! His true form has a little guy, though no one has an idea on how this guy would have appeared. But I have a reasonable theory. A Battle Cats theory! Yeah! So as far as I'm aware, no one knows where this head belongs, since everyone says that the head doesn't fit through the base door or the vault at the top. But I have a theory that the head is supposed to be used at the top vault of the unit. For one, the little guy's design seems to be finished, but looking at his lower half, we notice that the outline isn't fully completed. Now that is mostly because if the little guy was actually used, the lower half will be hidden behind something else from the sprite sheet. Knowing that, we can conclude that the cat isn't supposed to be fully shown. Rather, pop out and possibly pop back in from the base. Now with our options, the base door doesn't make sense, because if it were supposed to come out of there, then the outline would have been removed from the right rather than the bottom. And rotating it makes the cat look downwards, which I doubt is what the cat would be doing. This could only lead to one place, the vault at the top. But Neo, you might ask, if he was supposed to pop out of the vault, then why is the little guy too big to fit in the vault? Well, when looking at the sprite sheets again, do you notice anything weird? That's right, the outlines of the little guy are thicker than the rest of the sprite sheet. The Battle Cats is pretty consistent when it comes to the outlines of their cat, so it'd be weird for this cat's outline to be thicker all of a sudden. Specifically 2.5 pixels thick compared to the rest of the sprite sheet, which is 1.5 pixels. Doing some math, and that is a 66% increase. And when we scale the little guy down to match the outline of the sprite sheet, the little guy's head fits perfectly in the open vault. Maybe I can finally say I contributed something to the Battle Cats community rather than giving bad takes. But hey, that's just a theory. A Battle Cats theory. Thanks for watching. What I learned from today is for a game that's been out for more than 10 years, they sure used almost everything they've ever made. I mean, some of the stuff that were considered unused then were added later onto the game, such as Metal Cyclone and Cybear. Don't get me wrong, there's still a pile of never before seen content I haven't gone through, and if you guys want, I'll gladly make a part 2 of this topic. Though I think y'all heard me rant about deleted content when my list's long enough, so I think we're gonna stop here and call it a day. Thank you all for watching this video, and make sure to subscribe as we're almost hitting 100,000. I'd like to thank these members for joining my reopened YouTube membership, but as always, stay optimistic.